I'm your host, Emily Lauren Dick. Welcome to the Tame the Shame podcast, where we celebrate those shamelessly being themselves. We're here to inspire you to live a perfectly imperfect life, embrace the body you've got, and take back your power so you can live the life you want. Stick around if you want to listen to me get comfortably uncomfortable with all the things that make us feel ashamed. Welcome, everyone, to the Tame the Shame podcast show. Today, I'd like to welcome Dana Whitfield, who is a sacred intimacy mentor and pleasure empowerment coach who specializes in the art of Tantra. She helps women figure out how to love themselves and attract those juicy soul-aligned relationships. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Hey, so thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, before we get to talking about Tantra and the work you do, I would love to know more about your journey and what led you into this work.
Oh yes, it's been a interesting journey, as most people have their own story. But for me, it was really a mental health journey at the beginning to understand how things work, how I kind of show up for people. And I was in a 6-year relationship that was going towards marriage. We had bought a house. I was only 23 at the time, but you think this is it. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And you really don't realize how you relate to people until you live with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up being a situation where we were living separate lives in the same house. And I just stuck it out because I was like, well, this is the way it is. And I never questioned anything. But I also noticed myself getting slowly more down or low energy and just like feeling stuck and almost like contained. And I was like, I felt like I needed to break free. And the only times I felt free was when I was like in dance class or, out with my friends, being who I was. And so I took it upon myself to go out dancing. And back in the day, drinks were involved, all those kinds of things. And some of the nights I remembered, some of them I didn't. And it was the adrenaline of like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm so excited. But what ended up happening was I started to like not tell my partner where I was going. Not that I was up to anything conspicuous. It was like, if you're not going to share parts of your life with me, why should I share anything about me? But that created a wall, created the division more and more. And I couldn't do it anymore. He was also becoming a cop at the time. So I felt like I really had to walk on eggshells with certain things and, like drinking. And I didn't do any hard drugs or anything, but I did smoke weed and he wasn't a fan of that. So he caught me in a couple lies just because I was trying to protect myself at the time, right? And he couldn't do it anymore. And I kind of freaked out and I was like, what do you mean? Like, no, it's like, I'll change, I'll do anything. I ended up popping on to counseling. I took it upon myself to find a CODA, which was Codependence Anonymous.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was like one of those things where I felt like I couldn't live without you and all the stuff. So anyways, I was doing it for him at first. And nothing.
And were you still together at this point?
We were, and then we decided that I was going to move out. I moved back home with mom.
Okay, got it.
And, this was 6 months into moving in together. We bought a house. So it was like, we maybe should have rented first. I don't know. So whoever is looking into living with someone, maybe do a trial run with a living situation before buying something. Just a side note.
Very smart. Yes.
Very smart. So anyways, after I moved out, I was still trying to prove to him, like, look, I'm changing. And he didn't want to have anything to do with it. It wasn't until the moment I decided I'm doing this for me.
Yes.
I thought there was something seriously wrong with me. I thought I was like insane. I did get tested through a psychologist at the hospital. Clean bill of health. I literally just needed someone to talk to. Someone who got it, someone who understood me, who wouldn't judge me. And, as soon as I decided I didn't want to, do this anymore, and I was just doing it for me, he started calling me.
Mm.
And
They always
and I
come
was
back.
like, they always come back, and it's like the bar of soap. Like when you grasp onto something too tightly, it's like whoo, 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 it slips away. But you want to be more in an attraction energy, and this is exactly where I started to understand the law of attraction.
Mm.
So, anyways, going down a little more, we didn't get back together, of course. Um, there was a lot of shame and guilt around, moving in with somebody and not fulfilling on your promises. And yes, we weren't married, but and still, for me, integrity was a really big thing. But it wasn't about that. It was like the integrity piece is honoring yourself.
Yes.
And I realized growing up, I had established this belief that other people's happiness was my responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And that played out in various ways, such as what I just described. Um, Always trying to do things for others, never, and I could never understand why I was a doormat, why my needs weren't getting met, and all the things. Because I'm like, I'm doing everything for everyone else. Shouldn't they do the same for me? But as time goes on, you realize that your happiness is your responsibility, and getting your needs met is all about you, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not selfish. So it took me a long time to realize that. And then I continued on in the dating world, and I seemed to always have a boyfriend. And again, with the people pleasing, I dated a lot of like people that were depressed or had maybe some drug addictions and such. And I really played the savior.
Yeah.
As a kid, my mom was really sick. My whole family was basically sick. I was the only one
Mm-hmm.
that was normal.
Mm-hmm.
So I took this role on as caregiver
Mm-hmm.
without anyone asking, because no one else could emotionally support me, all the things. So fast forward to 2020, I was in a relationship that was long distance,
Okay.
which really jetted into being, you know, inside the pandemic. Um, and we didn't see we were together for 9 months, and we only saw each other for a week
Oh
in
man.
person. And
Oh, that's
previous to
hard.
that, all my relationships, right? And previous to that, all my relationships were physical. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, how in the world am I supposed to love this being? And how in the world are they supposed to understand me? But I have to tell you, yes, physical things are important, but at the core, an understanding and an intellectual conversation can move mountains, because I never felt so like gotten or heard, or
Mm-hmm.
just like he really got who I was. And it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
what I was doing for people. It wasn't what I was
Yes.
doing for him, because I couldn't physically do anything. It was all about who I was as a being.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there was something back in the day with one of my mentors. They always used to tell me, Dee, you're a human being, not a human doing.
Mm-hmm. I
Your
love
worth
that.
doesn't, right? And your worth doesn't lie in what you do for people. It's who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
You're here to have a human experience. Like, let's go do that. So, anyhow, that week that I did go see him, my physical tactics did not work.
Ah!
So I was like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me again. Oh my gosh. So on my way home, it's the pandemic. I'm like, okay, there's got to be something here. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
There was a posting in one of the chat groups I was a part of about tantric intimacy workshop.
Mm.
And all it really read, what stuck out to me was connect your own intimacy. And I think I realized in that moment that that was something I was not connected to, or that I really
Okay.
understood.
Yeah.
So I took this. This weekend it was 3 days in intensive with all women. Now,
Wow.
ah, and I, previous to this, was very wounded in sisterhood and motherhood and all that kind of thing.
Mm.
So it was a very transformational weekend in and itself, but also to really relate to other women, which was really, really cool.
That's amazing.
And now it was something I was like, oh my God, I want more of this. It was the first time I had ever felt unconditional love.
Mm.
Like, truly, I feel like in society, especially in our day and age, we have our love be very transactional. And
Yes.
it's very conditional of like, well, I did this for you, so you should do this for me. But
Mm-hmm.
that's just not how it goes. That's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that we believe that all this time. So I asked my mentor, I was like, what can I do? I want more of this. What is it? What does that look like? And she offered me to be a tantric practitioner. And I was like,
Amazing.
right? I was like, what? I don't know what that is. I don't know what you mean. I'm working my 9 to 5 in the medical field. I'm a medical administrator. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm cushy. I work at home now because of the pandemic. It's good. Time went on and I didn't take the opportunity. And this was in July. Fast forward to August. There was an accident with one of my very best friends in Ireland who ended up, she died from a car crash. And I went to Ireland in the middle of the pandemic, through it all for 5 days to be at her funeral. And
Oh
I
my
have to
goodness.
say, I know it sounds a little cliche, but everything changed when I got back.
Wow.
Like things that I thought were important to me were no longer important. Like the decisions, the daily decisions, just like, it's like, no, I'm here for a greater purpose. I'm here for a bigger, bolder thing in life. And this woman, my best friend, had lived a life and she was only 31.
Wow.
She had been traveling across Canada, lived in every province. She was like traveling, like met someone, moved to Ireland, was in Turkey, was in India, got her yogurts, like just everything. And
Amazing. Such an amazing life.
I was like, I got to do something. So I called up my mentor and I said, hey, is that opportunity still available? And luckily, now this doesn't happen always, people. Okay. Take the opportunity when it arises, even
Yes.
if it doesn't make sense, because you
Mm-hmm.
never know. So, anyhow, it was beautiful. And she said, yes. I moved myself from Hamilton to Brampton, which is like a 45-minute drive, a foreign town, didn't know anybody, but I lived and worked in this wellness center for about a year and a half. And that's basically how I got to be where I am today.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a long story, but
Wow. But you're here
I'm
living your
here. I'm
purpose.
living my purpose, making sure everyone is connected to themselves,
I
you know?
love
So
that. So were you ever a Tantra client before you became a practitioner? Did you ever experience it before getting into that role?
actually, no.
I think
So,
that's so cool.
there was a practicum involved with a workshop to really experience it. So you would know what you're kind of providing for others.
Yeah.
And I think it just clicked for me.
Mhm.
Automatically clicked. I mean, side note, my birthday is on Valentine's Day. So I feel like I've always been like a love person. I'm doing Cupid's work, all that kind of thing. So it just fit like a glove, and I've never felt so connected to something in my life.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, before we go any further, I would love for you to explain what Tantra is, or if it pronounced Tantra or Tantra?
I leave that up to the eye of the speaker,
Okay.
beholder. It's it's been said to me multiple different ways. So tantra, tantric. It's.
I love it.
I think it's the vibe.
I love
What
it.
goes into
Whatever
it.
you're feeling.
Whatever you feel. It's like potato, potato.
So what is Tantra?
Oh, tantra is. What is tantra in a sentence? It's really hard to describe. Um, it's all about connection and oneness, I would
Mhm.
say. It's a philosophy for life, how to be one in the present moment,
Mhm.
two, how to let go and just be, the
I
being.
love that.
And if we really break down the word tantra, tan translates to expansion. So
Okay.
expanding your mindset, your awareness, maybe your spirituality levels. And then tra is translated to liberation.
Oh, I love
So
that.
how to
That makes
liberate.
sense.
Yes, yeah. So liberating yourself from, the constructs of your mind or the belief systems that were bestowed upon you as a child, like any of that kind of thing. But if you had to like simplify it, it's spirituality meets sexuality and how to live a
Okay.
more fulfilled and blissful life,
I
I would
love
say.
that because I
Yeah.
think that many people don't know or understand what it is, so they tend to associate it only with sex. As a Tantra practitioner, tell me about some of the misconceptions that you've experienced as a teacher of this art.
Okay, I laid on you. So I majority work with men
Okay.
with a masculine energy,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm slowly starting to get into women. But the funny thing about men is they're human too,
Yes.
meaning they have emotions, they have things come
Mm-hmm.
up for them, but they don't know how to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in a sexual instance, it blocks them from having um, even like an orgasm or like
Mm-hmm.
really connecting with their partner, stuff like that. So, common misconception is I'm a spiritual prostitute, which is
Okay.
like probably the like sometimes people just assume because the common misconception about sex is that, oh, you're just going to have sex with me and do some meditation.
Yes. So is there
Now,
sex involved?
not in my practice.
Okay.
I
Got it.
can't say that for
For
other
everyone.
things,
Okay.
right? There are some practitioners out there that do what's known as full union,
Okay.
um, and that's up to their boundary.
Okay. So it's all about your own figuring out what your own boundaries are as a practitioner.
Right, and what your intention is behind it, right? So
Hmm.
even if I was trained in the same way as you, let's say, we could actually offer two totally different experiences just based off of our
Okay.
own beliefs and our boundaries.
I
So
love that.
yeah, it's I love it because it's so customizable,
Hmm.
and you talk about things, you talk about boundaries, you start to understand what's okay and not okay. You know, as kids, we were not taught boundaries.
Hmm.
Okay. And if you look at my conversations with some of the inquiries that I get from men, it can look rather harsh or like, how dare you?
Yeah.
But I've been trained in such a way to understand the male psyche, and what they're really asking for is love.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's got to be,
Um,
especially with like the really rigid gender roles of what is masculine and what is feminine in our society. Um, what are some of your boundaries that you have in your practice though?
yeah. So, the tantric sessions, I call it tantric body work. Some say just tantric massage, but I do more than just the massage part.
Got it.
So, in the tantric body work, there is, you can have one-way touch, two-way
Mhm.
touch. Um, there is something known as sky clad, which means that I am nude, the practitioner is nude, as
Okay,
well as the
yeah.
client.
Yeah.
So, that can get very interesting when you're not fully trained in the idea of what Tantra is, because you're like,
Mhm.
well, you have two naked bodies, you're obviously going to have
Yes.
sex.
That's what we're supposed to do,
So, that,
right?
right. So, what I do anyway, how I was trained was to have levels.
Mhm.
And the basic understanding of Tantra looks like, you come in, we talk about what's going on, what's working, what's not. Most times, men come to me because they have some sort of issue, whether it's they're not happy with their size, or they have
Mhm.
erectile dysfunction, or maybe they have premature ejaculation. Like, those are
Mhm.
some physical things that could be going on.
Yeah.
But mostly, it's like the underlining what's going on up here that's affecting everything
Mm.
else. And
Mhm.
I really teach you how to drop into your body using some breath work. And then there's some, like, there is massage involved. There's something known as touch therapy. So
Mhm.
I'm just guided to touch different parts of the body um, in a loving and nourishing way. The whole point is to feel honored and loved for exactly who you
Mhm.
are. And like, sometimes men are like, "Oh, we just get it done." It's like, just massage me and let's go. And it's like, yes, but what would happen if we just slowed down? What would
Okay.
happen if we just really understood that every part of you is sacred, not just
Mhm.
your genitals?
Mhm.
Yeah, they do the work, but there's other zones in your body to connect to your sacral, your sexual energy. And this is the basis of Tantra, is all about energy.
I was gonna say,
But
is it like energy work, but through touch, right?
right, so like for me, there's some Reiki involved. Like, I'm Reiki trained in Reiki as well.
Okay.
Um,
I love
so
Reiki.
breath work, Reiki, massage, meditation. We do connective exercises where we learn how to communicate in a nonviolent way, how to, how to be seen and heard, even if you feel like your partner's not going to understand you.
Mm.
And also this works for individuals. Like, you don't have to be a partner. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it
That was
does.
going to be one of my questions. Can you do it on your own? Do you have to be in a relationship?
And the funniest thing is, even people that are married that come to me, it's usually one or the other that comes in first.
Yeah.
And I actually prefer it because that doesn't create the codependency that I used to deal with as
Yeah.
myself, to understand that you are responsible for your orgasms, for
Mhm.
your happiness, and for your pleasure.
Mhm. I like
And
that.
that your partner, if and when that's available to you, is an enhancer to your relationship.
I love that. And you said
You-
you're starting to work more with women now. Why
Yes.
do you think more women should try tantra? Because obviously it's been more of a male dominated thing that you've been offering your service to. Why should women do it?
I think women should really explore this, um, just because everything's interrelated connected. So if you're having, like, for example, financial issues,
Mhm.
or you're having a hard time with body image and all the things, your sexual energy is a creative force.
Mhm.
Okay, think about how we create life from having sex. So in an energetic sense, you can create things from your basically orgasms,
I like that.
right? So it's pleasurable, you're having fun, but you're also behind the scenes. We don't realize how powerful our womb space actually is. Okay.
Mhm.
So think about it as, if you want to create a business, or you want to just create anything, you want to be creative in any sense of the word,
Mhm.
you're going to want to tap into who you are, connect to your body, and own yourself, own your goddess, your inner self of,
Mhm.
I'm allowed to be a sexual being. Now,
Yes.
on the flip side, us women have been suppressed for so long in a sexual sense. And I truly believe, now this may sound very odd, but I truly believe that years ago, they really figured out, like witch times, and like,
Yeah.
you're like a sorcerer, burn her at the stake. I think they did that because they realized how powerful we actually are, just
Damn
because of
right.
what our womanhood actually is.
Yeah, exactly.
And and
Control our power, right?
and that's the whole thing. The overarching message in the world right now is that, um that we're being controlled
Mhm.
in any sense of the word. So I really invite women to question the way they do things, question, what they want in their lives. Is it something you really want yourself because you desire it in your heart? Or is it something someone told you that you wanted all this time
Mhm.
and you feel obligated to have it?
Why do you think that pleasure is still such a taboo subject in our society? Like, we often talk about it as something that's more private or only for men. How does your work teach people to stop being ashamed of this very natural experience? And why is it so important that we talk about women's pleasure?
Okay. Men may shoot me, ladies might be like, you're crazy. But here's the thing: women, without women, there would be no men.
So true.
Okay. So, wouldn't it be interesting if we encouraged more pleasure in women? Because I'm going to tell you, men, if your woman is held and supported and loved and being her sexual self, she will worship you like a god or a king, however you want to denominate. I promise
Mhm.
you. When we start to understand how women actually function in the world, like when their power is up to a heightened level, and that we're all encouraging, us women are all encouraging each other to do the same things, it creates a ripple effect amongst everybody.
I love that. I love that so much. And it's just like healing, generational trauma, right? Like the more you take care of those issues, the better things that we'll pass down to our own kids. So I can see how that works sort of in that same way. On your website, you write that intimacy is a form of medicine. Can you tell me more about why intimacy is medicine?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, and I see it in my clients all the time, right? So, the intimate nature of connecting with another person, it actually heals you inside.
Hmm.
It sends a signal from your brain to the rest of your body, which in turn is all your cells that are generating themselves, to be more positive, to know that our human being, our core values is all about connection.
Yes.
Why do you think there was so much depression and anxiety when the pandemic hit?
Oh, yeah,
Because
100%.
because we weren't allowed
Mm-hmm.
another control piece, but also because we weren't connecting, this is where all the problems started, even though they've always been there. But
Mm-hmm.
we started to see it more because we took something away from humanity. So when I say medicine, I want to say, if I was a doctor, I would prescribe orgasms more than I would medication. I would find a way.
I love
Sorry,
that.
right? Like, sorry, big pharma, but, and it's
I
like,
would be okay with that prescription.
right? Like, and it doesn't mean, again, your partner's not responsible for that orgasm. It's for you to
Yes.
figure out your body, to figure out how you function,
Mm-hmm.
to figure out how you work.
Mm-hmm.
In my line of work, having an orgasm or self-pleasure, for example, is just as important, if not more, than like sitting down and meditating.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you, a lot
That
of my
shit is
clients,
spiritual.
it is. This is the thing. Sex or sexuality, the sexual energy is spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think you got here? Why
Yep.
do you think we create life the way we do?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not just like, okay, let's put the pain in the vagine. Like, no, we're here to really connect. And that's why when I was talking about earlier, some practitioners do a full union.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know if you ever heard the story, but they say the Big Bang was one big orgasm.
Oh, I like that. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. So, in the tantric text, I'll do this little quick story. It's all about, and ties into why it's medicine. It's like the basis, the energy always goes back to the original source, right?
Yes.
So there has been always, in denomination of energy, in nature, in life, it's always been masculine and feminine. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in the story of Tantra, there is Shakti and Shiva, which represents the two energies. Okay.
Okay.
They were created as a whole,
Mm.
just like you and I were created whole. Okay. You're perfect, whole, and complete as you are. Now, something happened where they began to separate. They started to get sick of each other. They're like, I don't want to be attached to you. It's like Siamese twins. Like, I don't want to be attached to you anymore. Da, da, da. And wouldn't you know it, they started missing each other.
Mm.
So they did everything and anything they could to come back together, which created the full union.
Mm.
So when you're having intimacy and sex and intercourse for the sole fact of procreating a human life form, this is so special. And this should not be taken lightly because you are creating something.
Mm-hmm.
You are given God-given abilities. Whether you believe in God or not, I say universe, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it. But there is a higher power than ourselves, excuse me.
100%.
So I really want people to understand this. Whether you believe in it or not, just question it. There's something
Yeah.
more. And notice how you feel after having an orgasm.
Yes.
Truly. Like, how do you
Yeah.
feel?
Yeah. I love that.
It's like you feel like, I'm magical, I can do anything. And you really can in that state of mind. Because we're energetic beings, we vibrate at such a high frequency when we're in that state of bliss.
Mm-hmm.
It's like really, really close to enlightenment, which even the Buddhist monks don't even get to at times.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just really think about, this is like, for me, it's a practical way to introduce spirituality and connection to source through
Mm-hmm.
sex.
I love
Honestly.
that. I think that's such a great way. of thinking about it, especially since religion has played such a role in inhibiting, pleasure, especially women's pleasure, and making so many of us feel like it's something we should be ashamed of or that we should feel guilt over. So I love that. And I think that's such an important healing piece to anyone's life. So you're a Tantra practitioner, but you're also a coach.
Yes.
So when you work with clients, do you offer a blend of these services, or is it an either or type of situation here? How does it work for you?
I really like to make it a co-creation. So because I offer both, I always have felt you can't have one without the other. Meaning
Mm-hmm.
you can't have mindset work without the embodiment pieces, and you really can't have embodiment pieces without the mindset to back it up. They can work separately, but it's absolutely more powerful when we have a divine union. So when I first started this, it was just solely in-person tantric practicing. Because I've always had a background in coaching, I would throw some questions or journal prompts into my
Mm.
sessions for people to really ponder. So it wasn't just, okay, I come in for a healing and I'm done. Because your healing is never done.
No.
So I wanted to, right? So, there are clients that come in and they just have one-off sessions, and that's fine, or what we call a tune-up.
I like
And
that.
I think it's beautiful, but at the same time, I have packages and things to have at home as well. So let's say you come in for a session, we figure out what you're really working on truly, like what's the core belief going on behind the scenes. And then I give you tantric tools. So that would
Hmm.
be more like the sexy tools to do at home, combined with, okay, I'm being very intentional about this. I'm going to go have a self love session or
Hmm.
masturbation for those who don't
Hmm.
really understand what that means.
I love
Um,
that.
I just want to clarify, like self love,
That's
could
perfect.
be
Yeah, because some
anything.
people don't understand that
Um,
that's what you're talking about.
yeah, and masturbation is a beautiful way to really get to know your body, what you like, what you don't, and like, I feel it's better to do a self exploration first, even if you've been with
Hmm.
a partner 20 plus years, only because your body changes all the time. That
Hmm.
means
100%.
your boundaries
Hmm.
change all the time.
And you
So
learn more about yourself, right?
really important to check in with yourself at every step. Okay.
Yes.
Um, and that's something I teach in the sessions is like we talk about boundaries and intentions before we start. So we
Hmm.
are actually in the creative forces. So when we're doing these things in session or self practice, whatever, people have told me, and I've experienced this myself, where, just because we're talking about intimacy or we're doing sexy things, they
Hmm.
start to notice how I begin to be more confident. I speak up in meetings at work that I've never even thought about before.
Hmm.
I ask the girl out on a date. My husband's finally cleaning the toilet, like whatever it is. And it's like, yes, because it's all interconnected. And this is why
Hmm.
I say I do both. And not everyone's going to jump on the bandwagon of, wanting to talk about sex and all the things. So we always dive into more of the mindset pieces, and that's okay.
I
But
love
maybe
that.
I'll slip in an embodiment piece that's more self led, like maybe it's dancing. Like I love dancing. I've been a dancer since I was 3 years old. So that's one of my beautiful tools I offer to like just have fun, recreate your,
Change up that
the
energy.
yeah, the childlike wonder. Like,
Hmm.
a lot of couples are like, hey, like, I miss the honeymoon phase or whatever. And it's like, I can actually teach you how to prolong that phase for the rest of your life.
That's amazing. I love that.
It's all about your perception.
So, what would you say to someone who's sort of interested in trying it out or learning more about it, but are feeling a little bit ashamed of sort of wanting to do this?
hmm I would say, jump on a discovery call with me,
Amazing.
because there are things that people are just not ready for. Like I always say, Tantra is not for everybody.
Hmm.
So I also offer a platonic intimacy way of doing things.
Oh, so you have options
I
here.
have options. So in the physical world, I'm also a professional cuddler.
Oh,
So I do cuddle.
amazing.
Ah, yeah. So I do
That sounds so fun.
cuddle therapy. It's very like mother energy. Like you're very like you feel held
Oh,
and
yeah.
understood and gotten. And that's something I think in even my experience of therapy that was missing. And it's to why I really love the cuddle therapy is because,
Mhm.
talking to me isn't really going to help all
Mhm.
the way through, let's say. When I'm held and I feel supported and I actually feel that connection of love, and there's no obligation to be a certain way and everything else, you just get to be, you get to lay there and be accepted and loved for who you are.
Mhm.
Things start to shift in your psyche. Things start to shift in your body where you start trusting. And
Mhm.
I think the number one thing with people that have shame or guilt is they have a big lack of trust.
Mhm.
So I would probably start someone in that regard. If it's not in a physical sense, I would ask people just to introduce joy into their everyday. Because a lot of us, women especially, we ignore the fact that we deserve joy in our life
Yes.
because we're moms. So we got to take care of the kids and the family, or you work 3 or 4 jobs and you're running yourself ragged, and there's no time to quote unquote have fun, which
Mhm.
is absolutely insane because what the fun provides you is a free space to be.
Yeah.
And then your mind starts shifting into I can do this rather than I
Mhm.
can't.
I
You're
love
not
that.
looking for other people to be like, you need to do this with your life. It's like, no, 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 no. I don't need someone to tell me what to do, and I don't need someone to tell me what's wrong with me because I
Mhm.
already know.
So
You
true.
know, like, do you know what I mean? Like, people don't come to you because they sometimes they don't know.
Mhm.
And we can like look into that and figure what that is. But majority of the time you do know, you're too scared to say it
Yeah, it's just
because you
peeling back
feel
those layers, right?
like you don't deserve it or whatever the case may be. And I show you how you do deserve things,
Hmm.
that you're a miracle in this world, that you were sent here for a purpose and you have codes and gifts that you need to not even need that you get to express with people.
Mhm.
Because I bet your bottom dollar, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, you have a gift that someone really needs
Mhm.
or that someone needs to hear. Or, even if I only change one life today, like just because I
Mhm.
said hi or I
Yeah.
smiled or,
It's the
like
little things, right?
it's absolutely the little things compounded over time is going to make the
Mhm.
massive impact.
I
And I
love
think
that.
people take those for granted because we're so busy. Okay. Women, hear me. You're
Mhm.
all hypermasculated because you feel like you have to do more to be worthy of any value. Okay. Your value is laying within yourself. We have really
Amazing.
messed up views on value. Like,
Yes.
did you know there's no actual value in a house, but there's a million times value in yourself?
Mhm.
But we create things. We're meaning making machines. We're like, oh, we're valued because of it. It's like, okay, if that's the case, if you know for a fact, let's just say for 1 second, sit with this. If you know that you are a meaning making machine and that's never going away, wouldn't you rather make things mean positive things and more pleasurable things that you get to do than the constructs of, oh, I can't because of XYZ?
Yeah, 100%.
Someone so and so told me this one time and I believed it ever since.
Mhm.
Do you know how insane that sounds?
I know.
So what I really want women to have is the permission to want what they want.
Yes. I think everyone needs a you in their corner because I am lit up, I am inspired.
We love it.
So please tell us where we can follow you online.
Yes, I'm online on IG, so Instagram at the Eccentric Goddess. Um,
We'll include all the links in the show notes too.
Yeah, we'll include all the links. And then I also have my website, Love Academy, which has all my in-person offerings. You can get in contact with me that way or on Instagram as well, whatever you prefer. But yeah, I just love having some outlets for people to,
Oh.
even if it's just a conversation. I just want to say this. Yes, my job on this earth is to give people permission to want what they want, but it's also to gain clarity and on what that is. Okay, so even if you don't end up working with me, I can guarantee you will walk out of our conversation very clear on what your next steps could be. So
I love that. I think that's amazing. I was going to
mhm.
ask you if you could offer one tip to our listeners before we go, what would that be?
Oh, okay. This is gonna sound crazy.
I like a little crazy.
I have two things. Can I do
Okay,
two
do
things or one
it.
thing?
Yeah, do two things. Why not?
Okay, two things. One piece of advice and another, this is how it's gonna go. So, piece of advice, stop talking about the things that you don't want.
Mm.
And the other thing is, choose yourself first in every moment.
Oh, that's perfection. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my goodness, Dana. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us today. I'll be sharing all of Dana's links, and I hope you follow her and all her amazing empowered words and education with you all. So thank you so much. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Real Happy Daughter, and remember that it takes immense courage to be yourself in a world that strives for conformity. So be brave and unleash your inner power.